How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. The following scary supernatural events are still unsolved. But before we dive into these fascinating stories, remember to hit that subscribe button for more creepy content just like this.
In the mid-1960s, the National Coal Board in Wales began amassing a pile of waste material from their mining operations in the mountains above the village of Aberfan. Such piles were common in mining towns, but this particular one was dangerous. The ground beneath it was made of porous sandstone resting atop underground springs and wells, making it very unstable. In 1965, the spoil tip began to slip down the mountain towards the town. No one was hurt, but the citizens of the village began complaining to the mining company that the tip was dangerous. The company dismissed the complaints, fearing that if they investigated the threat, the mine would be shut down. This would be a huge economic blow to the company and the town, so they continued as normal. A year later, a 10-year-old girl named Errol Mae Jones began behaving in a peculiar way. Although the girl was not prone to flights of fancy, she told her mother that she was unafraid to die. She added that she'd be glad to see Peter and June, two former classmates who had died years before. Then, on October 19, 1966, the bizarre behaviour reached its peak, when Errol told her mother about a terrifying dream. She had gone to school only to find it covered in something black. "I dreamt I went to school and there was no school there. Something black had come down all over it," she said. On October 21 at 9:15 AM, an excess of water built up in the tip, turning it to slurry. It slipped down the hill and hit the Pantglas Junior School, killing 114 people. 109 were children. Errol was one of the unfortunate victims. Had the young girl predicted the tragedy in the week before it happened? Several other parents of victims later claimed that their children had made similar predictions, making this accident one of the most bizarre supernatural events still left unsolved.
Hey peeps, just a quick interlude to let you know today's episode's powered by Raid Shadow Legends on mobile. It's absolutely free to download, so check it out.
I know you've already heard about Raid everywhere, but there's a great reason for it. Raid is one of the top 3 ranked RPGs on the Google Play Store, and it's just been nominated as a finalist for Google Play's Best of 2019 Users' Choice Award. So what is Raid? It's an epic dark fantasy done right. A hero collection turn-based game with over 400 champions for you to collect and personally customize. Discover 13 spectacular locations, enjoy a fully voiced story campaign, raid with friends in a clan, and claim glory in the PvP arena. The game is continuing to grow super fast. Check out this cool roadmap that they've published. They've got huge updates for the game over the coming 6 months. There's a new faction mode, a tag team arena feature, and even a new clan boss.
So what are you waiting for? Download the game, it's absolutely free. Use my special link in the description box below and you'll get 50,000 silver, plus a free epic champion, all part of the new player program to get you started. So check it out.
Some say poltergeists are not uncommon supernatural events, but none are as controversial as the alleged spirit that terrorised Thornton Heath in 1938. Mrs. Forbes lived at Thornton Heath with her husband and son. She claimed to be the victim of a violent poltergeist who would regularly throw objects, scratch her, and even strangle her. A psychologist and investigator named Nandor Fedor agreed to visit her and make an assessment. After witnessing several allegedly supernatural events, he became convinced that Mrs. Forbes was suffering from some sort of psychosis that made her fake the poltergeist attacks. He asked that she accompany him to a psychiatric institute 10 miles away where he could study the situation. Even at the institute, the events continued. Objects were hurled across the room, and the woman's possessions from Thornton Heath mysteriously appeared in her room. She was even observed while being scratched and strangled by the phantom. Some of these attacks left physical marks. Still, Fedor was convinced that she was faking the events due to psychosis. Despite numerous searches of her body, the investigators couldn't find any evidence that Mrs. Forbes was hiding objects on her body that would allow her to enact such hoaxes. He eventually requested that she undergo an X-ray, which revealed that she had 2 small objects hidden under her breast. These objects later appeared in her hands after she supposedly collapsed. Despite this evidence, many still believe that Fedor was wrong in attributing the events to a psychological disturbance. In later years, he underwent extreme harassment by believers who found fault with his treatment of Mrs. Forbes. To this day, no one knows for sure if the Thornton Heath poltergeist was an elaborate hoax or a real-life haunting. When siblings get separated at birth and eventually find each other again, it's cause for celebration. In the case of the Jim twins, their reunion was both heartwarming and baffling. When the 2 men found each other at age 39, they were surprised to discover that both had been named James by their adoptive parents. Both also went by the nickname Jim. However, the similarities didn't end there. As they got to talking, they found more and more similarities about their lives that they had led without ever knowing the other even existed. Both had dogs named Toy as children. Both grew up and eventually married women named Linda, who they later divorced. Both also remarried, this time to women named Betty, with whom they had sons, both named James. They also realised that they both smoked the same brand of cigarettes and drove Chevys. Their jobs were also eerily similar. One was a security guard and the other a deputy sheriff. After their reunion, the twins were contacted by a scientist named Dr. Thomas Bouchard of the University of Minnesota. He asked them to take part in research about the influence of nature and nurture, recognising that as separated identical twins, they presented a unique opportunity for study. During the research, Dr. Bouchard discovered that their medical histories were practically identical. In addition, scans of their brainwaves and assessments of their personalities were remarkably similar. Did some unexplained psychic connection cause the long-lost twins to live parallel lives for 39 years? Science has yet to provide an answer, leaving the lives of these twins to be one of history's most confounding supernatural events. When a Texas man named Nathan lost his girlfriend Emily in a tragic accident in 2012, he grieved that he would never see or talk to her again. Little did he know that 2 years later, Emily would once again make her presence felt. She didn't come to him in a dream or through a seance. Instead, she got in touch through Facebook. After Emily's death, Nathan and Emily's mother kept access to her Facebook accounts. At first, Nathan assumed that the messages he was getting were from Emily's mother or a friend who had hacked the account. He quickly ruled that out. The messages were made up of phrases from their previous chats, so he thought it must have been a Facebook bug. Then, Nathan started receiving messages that were completely original. Her first original message said, "I don't know what's happening." She also typed, "Let me just walk." Nathan was particularly chilled by this message, as the accident that killed Emily had crushed her legs. Things took an even more sinister turn when she sent a photo of Nathan. It was taken from behind a partially closed door when he was home alone. This is the photo here. Was Emily reaching out to him from beyond the grave, or does Nathan have something more real and earthly to be afraid of? When Netflix debuted a horror movie called Veronica in 2018, viewers began to wonder if the film might be inspired by real events. This led them to the case of a young girl from Vallecas in South Madrid who met a terrifying end in 1990. Her name was Estefania Guterres Lazaro. According to her parents, Estefania began dabbling in the occult as a teen. They weren't too concerned, as it isn't unusual for teenage girls to become interested in witchcraft. However, after Estefania conducted a seance at school attempting to contact the deceased boyfriend of a classmate, they had cause to worry. According to the teacher who interrupted the seance, they witnessed strange smoke billowing into the girl's mouth and nose as she sat before the Ouija board. Over the next few months, Estefania began experiencing seizures and hallucinations. She sometimes flew into a violent rage, claiming she had seen evil spirits nearby. Doctors examined her but were unable to find a cause for her symptoms. Then, 6 months after the seance, Estefania died without explanation. However, the terror didn't end there. After her death, her family experienced slamming doors and mysterious whispers, and appliances switching themselves on and off again. It didn't stop until they moved from the house where the girl had died. What did Estefania conjure up while she was channeling spirits through her Ouija board? So far, no one's been able to answer this question. If you want more eerie and creepy content just like this, then hit that subscribe button and turn on channel notifications. That way you'll be notified about all our latest videos. When Andrea Katz heard the story of a deadly Metrolink crash on the radio, she was relieved when she received a call from her fiancé's phone shortly after. She knew that her beloved Charles Peck would be on the train that had crashed and was worried about his safety. When she answered the call, she heard nothing but static. Other members of Charles's family also began receiving calls from his phone. His fiancée, son, sister, brother and stepmother received a total of 35 phone calls during the 11 hours that rescue workers dug through the wreckage. Each call contained only static, or possibly a faraway voice, but they still gave rescuers reason to hope that they might be able to pull him out alive. Family members who received the calls attempted to talk to Charles on the other end of the line, encouraging him to hold out until the rescuers could find him. At around 3:30 AM, the phone calls stopped. 1 hour later, Charles was finally found. Unfortunately, he didn't survive. According to the medical examiner, evidence suggested that Charles had been killed immediately upon impact. There was little chance that he had survived for even a few minutes after the accident, much less the 11 hours that it took to find his body. So how did Charles's phone make 35 calls after he had died? Some suggested that an object on top of the phone caused it to call numbers on the speed dial. Others pointed out that the badly damaged phone could have easily malfunctioned. However, the phone that made these calls was never found in the wreckage, so it's impossible to know for sure.
If you want more paranormal mysteries just like the ones you've just seen, then check out that video on the top there. Otherwise, there's a scary playlist right there. Now in the comment section below, let us know which one of these segments you thought was the weirdest or creepiest. And that's it from me. I'll see you all next time. Peace!